we will be discussing your absolute and your relative count. Now, in our last meeting, last Friday, na-notice nyo, you must have noticed that for every cell type, there is a normal value of both relative and absolute. Now, to explain that class, let's start with your relative count. Your relative count class would refer to the percentage of the type of WBC in 100 cells differentiated. So when we're talking about the type of WBC, this will refer to your neutro, your lympho, your AO, your baso, and your mono. And remember class, sa diff count, di ba 100 cells ang dinidifferentiate nyo. So in Tagalog, to understand this statement in a simpler manner, you're going to get the number of each type of WBC in 100 cells. So there are two rules class in relative counting. The first rule class, if the total WBC, when I say total WBC class, this would refer to the WBC count of the patient. So remember, in adults, ang normal niya is 4.5 to 11,000. If you convert that to SI, that is 4.5 times 10 raised to the 9 per liter, or 11 times 10 raised to the 9 per liter. So yan yung normal. Now, if the total value, total WBC count is within normal range, ibig sabihin pasok dito sa range na to na 4.5 to 11,000, you're just going to report the number of specified cell type out of 100 cells. So, ire-report nyo lang class kung ilan yung nakita nyong cell type. An example for that class would be, let's say you perform differential count. Nakakita kayo, you saw 70 neutrophils. You would report that as 70% neutrophils. Then, if you saw 30 lymphocytes, you would report that as 30% lymphocytes. And remember class, as a general rule, the total relative count should always be equal to 100%. Ulitin ko, the first rule class in your relative count is that if the total WBC count is normal, within normal range, you're just going to report the number of specified cell type out of 100 cells. So if you saw 70 neutrophils, you're going to report that as 70%. The percent class is the unit of your relative count. So if you saw 30 lymphocytes, you report that as 30% lymphocytes. Any question? None? Okay. Next one, class. Another rule for your relative count is if there is an increase or decrease in your total WBC count. Now, if there is an increase total WBC count greater than normal, you have your so-called leukocytosis. You are going to differentiate. Ang bibilangin yung cells will be 200 cells. Di ba pag normal, 100 WBCs? But if there is leukocytosis, let's say greater than 11,000, ang total WBC count ng patient is 13,000 cubic mm, you are going to differentiate 200 cells. Kapag naman less than normal, may leukopenia. Let's say 3,000 cubic mm lang yung WBC count. You are going to count 50 cells only. Again, if there is a variation in the total WBC count, whether increase or decrease, let's say increase siya, may leukocytosis greater than 11,000, you would have to count the 200 WBCs. Kapag naman less than normal, let's say less than 4,500, you have, may leukopenia, you have to count 50 WBCs. Now, for that class, meron kayong gagamiting formula. So, yung WBC type observed nyo, let's say nakabilang kayo ng 150 na neutrophils. Then, ang total, then divide that by the total number of WBC differentiated. Let's say, since may leukocytosis, let's say ang WBC count ng patient is 22,000. You would then apply the rule. Kapag may leukocytosis greater than normal sa total WBC count, you would count 200 cells. So, ang total number of WBC mo na i-differentiate is 200. So, 150 neutrophils divided by 200 WBCs times 100. So, here's another example. Among 200 cells, 190 cells are neutrophils and 10 are lymphocytes. WBC count is 35,000 cubic mm. So, this is a case of leukocytosis. So, you are going to differentiate 200 cells. And using the formula, let's say sa neutrophil ang bibilangin nyo. Ilan ang neutrophil? 190. Ilan ang cells na i-differentiate nyo? 200. 200. Then you multiply it by 100, you would get 95%. Last question. What is the percentage relative count of your lymphocyte dito? Sabi dito, 10 lymphocytes are seen. What is the relative count? 95 ang neutro. Are you sure, Ms. Johnson? What is the... Okay, it's 5%. For a total of 100%. Remember class, yung general rule na sabi ko, kapag relative count, the total relative count should always accumulate to 100%. Any questions? Okay, next problem. Here's a problem class. 100 cells are counted. 60 segmented cells are seen. 25 cells with nucleus occupying the endoplasm are seen. 5 cells with brick red granules, 2 cells with blue to black granules, 8 cells with ground to glass. Sir, wala namang nakalagay na neutrophil, lymphocyte, monocyte, eosinophil, basophil dyan. Wala akong nilagay. Ang nilagay ko yung description ng cell para mas mahirapan kayo. Rather, just to make you more of a critical thinker. So, what is the relative count class of your neutrophil? Sige nga. WBC count is 10,500. So, normal. And since normal siya, you're just gonna report it as what you see in percentage. Now, the question is, how many percent, what is the relative count of your neutrophil? Ingat. Kaya tingnan natin if you know your WBCs. Let's see if you still know your WBCs. Sa ilalim ng putik, gitla. Sa napuan. Bakit naging 120% yan, Mr. Gil? Dapat pagkakamali kayo ng ano yung tanong ko, dapat pinapakantaw kayo, no? Bakit naging 100? Low sa niya. Cells with nucleus occupying the entire cytoplasm. Anong cell yan? Lymphocyte. May brick red granules. Anong cell yan? Eo. Cells with blue to black granules. Ano? Iso. Cells na may ground glass cytoplasm. Ground glass class. What is the cell? Okay, monocytes. So, based on this, sabi ang first rule, kapag normal ang WBC count, pasok sa reference range, you're just going to report it as is in percentage. So balik ako sa tanong ko, what is the relative count of your neutrophil? 60%. Very good. How about your lymphocyte? 25%. Do not forget the unit. How about your eosinophils? 5%. Okay. How about your basophils? 2%. And how about your monocyte? 8%. For a total of what? Ilan ang total? 100%. Okay? So you have class, whenever you're going to do this, you have to memorize yung normal value ng total WBC count nyo. Para hindi kayo mahirapan. Okay, here's one. So what's the first thing you have to do, class, in relative count is always to check the WBC count. Check nyo kung normal, decrease, or increase siya. So in this case, 25,532. Increase or decrease? Decrease. So may leukocytosis. And leukocytosis. So ang question is, how many WBCs are you gonna differentiate? How many WBCs are you gonna differentiate? 200. Sige nga, check na natin kung 200 yung nabilang niya. 120 plus 45, 165 plus 15, 180 plus 12, 192 plus 8, 200. So 200, very good. Now, what's the formula? So let's say gusto natin kunin yung neutrophil. So ilan yung cell type counted? 120 divided by the total to be differentiated, which is 200. You multiply it by 100. You would get what? What's the answer, class? 60. Not forget the unit. Okay. How about the lympho? How about your lymphocyte? 45. Okay, 22.5%. How about your AO? 7.5%. How about your basophil? 'The check, Miss Alaudin? It's 6%. How about your monocyte? 12%. For a total of 60 plus 22.5, 82.5 plus 7.5, 90 plus 6, 96 plus 4, 100%. Okay, so I still have 3 questions. Let's play a game. First two students. Since first of by 50. Okay. So the answer for this class would be your WBC count is decrease. So there's leukopenia. So you're just going to count, you're going to differentiate 50 cells. So 12 plus 5, 17, 32 plus 3, 13, 45 plus 5, 50. So using the formula, your neutrophil would be 12 divided by 50 times 100. You would get 24%. Lymphocyte would be 5 divided by 50, you would get 10%. And then your AO, 15 divided by 50 times 100, you would get 30%. And BASO, 5 divided by 50 times 100, you would get 10%. And AO, and Mono, which is 13, divided by 50 times 100, you would get 26%, for a total of 100%. So the first one who got it right are Miss Villarreal and Miss Talacan. Okay? Last one, class, for your relative count. Same rules. First two students gets it right, gets a bonus point. Without even doing it, count ng cell. Kahit increase siya, kahit decrease. Ito kanina, class. Di ba? 37.5, 52.5, 2.5, 6, at ito 1.5. Anong kalahati ng 75? 37.5. Anong kalahati ng 50, ng 105, 52.5? You're only gonna do that if there is leukocytosis. Sir, bakit mo pa kami pinagko-compute? Pwede naman pala ganyan. Wala lang. Gusto ko kasi makita if you could see the shortcut eh. Okay. So, pag may leukocytosis class, just divide nyo sa 2. But don't forget the unit. How about naman leukopenia? Decrease. Anong na-notice nyo na shortcut? Wala na, hindi na ano hindi na exempt. So, paano naman kapag leukopenia? Mm-hmm. Okay. So, times 2 naman. So, in this case, nalala nyo, 24, 10, 30, 10, 26. Kapag may leukopenia. So again, the shortcut class, kapag may leukocytosis, i-times 2 nyo lang yung nakita nyong cell type. Then add the pag may leukopenia naman, decrease. Just divide it by, just multiply it by 2. Okay? Alright, so let's proceed. Pinahirapan ko pa kayo na class. Anyways, okay lang yan para at least alam niyo yung formula. Okay, let's proceed now to your absolute count. Class, your absolute count this time has no shortcut. This refers to the actual number of WBC per cubic mm of blood. So we're talking about this time, class, the total number of WBC. Sign tayo sa sample nyo. Total type of WBC. So the formula for this class is percent of WBC type divided by 100 times the total WBC count. So this time you're going to incorporate, isasama niyo yung total WBC count sa computation. So let's say, class, nakakita kayo ng 8 na monocytes. So 8% monocytes yun. You divide it by 100, then you times it by the total WBC count. So in this case, 20,000 cubic meters. So 8 divided by 100 times 20,000, you would get 1,600 per UL monocyte. That is the conventional. Now, if you want that in SI, say gusto ko siya i-SI, you're going to convert that by multiplying it by 0.001. You would get 1.6 times 10 raised to the 9 per liter. Intindihan? Madali lang siya, class. Just have to memorize the formula. Okay, here's a problem. So let's solve, try natin. So 74 segmenters. So let's start with your neutrophil. So 74 divided by 100 times the total WBC count, which is 12,200. Ano sagot, class? 9,028 per UL. Per UL class and cubic mm, same lang yun, ha? Mas gusto ko siyang gawing SI. What's the answer in SI? Apply mo yung rule natin, Ms. Taras. So, 9.03% is to the 9th per liter. Nag-ingat kayo sa decimal places. Mag-GG tayo niyan. Okay. Naman class. Sige nga, sa iyo. How about yung ito? Is this for absolute or is this for relative count? Is this for absolute or relative count? Bakit relative? Stars. Bakit relative yan? Okay, very good. Percentage kasi class. So mag-ingat kayo class, this is not for absolute, this is for relative count lang. Pag convert yan sa SI, it just becomes decimal. And remember, ang absolute count nyo class should be per UL or times 10 raised to the 9th per liter. So if you took notes of that sa handouts mo, masasagutan yan. Okay? So balik na tayo. And Misa.
Sa ilalim Afternoon po, sir. Marinig po ako, sir.
Yes, narinig ka.
Okay. Okay. Sa ilalim ng puting ilaw. Okay na, sir.
Ako talaga pinapahabaan ko. Sige, okay na yun. Alright. Velario, Joel. Joel,
Sir,
go for the attendance.
hindi ako maka-on-cam sir, hindi kaya ng data.
Sige, go.
Sa ilalim ng puting ilaw, sa dilaw na buwan.
Smooth. Okay, next is Torres. Renzi. Torres, can you turn on your camera?
Magandang ko, sir.
Yes, okay.
Sa ilalim ng puting ilaw.
Galing, gumana. Panalo. Okay, Tolentino, EJ.
Sir,
Yes. Turn on your cam, EJ.
may error, sir.
Nag-error ba talaga? Sige, go.
O, lagi.
Go. Sing.
Ano ka ito?
Sa ilalim ng puting ilaw. Bumanap ka.
Okay, sir. Ready na ako.
Go.
Sa ilalim ng puting ilaw.
Wow, galing. Okay. Miss Johnson. Miss Johnson, can you turn on your camera? Johnson. Miss Johnson.
Hello.
Hello. Can you turn on your cam?
Ay, nag-connecting pa, sir. Mahina ang internet.
Weh.
Kasi, pag gina-on ka ko, mabagal.
Go, sing na.
Um, wait lang po. Grabe, pressure. Sa ilalim ng puting ilaw, sa
Wow.
dilaw na buwan. Yun lang.
Okay. Good job, good job. Okay. Miss Asisa, in the next.
Wala ako, sir.
Okay, go sing.
Sa ilalim ng puting ilaw. Okay na, sir.
Okay. Next, Talakan. Jean.
Sir, marinig ako, sir.
Oo.
Sir, marinig ako.
Oo.
Wait lang. lang. Wait lang. Sa ilalim ng puting ilaw, sa dilaw na buwan.
Mga singers talaga, mga talented talaga, mga third year students ko. Okay, next, Miss Sunga, Erica.
Ako na po. Wait lang, sir. Sa ilalim ng puting ilaw.
Alright, galing. Next, Miss Sumagaysay. Yun yung si Samantha. Wala siya, no? Happened to her. Okay. Suwa, Doel. Doel.
Yes, sir. Mag-on cams ako, sir.
Sige. Banat ka ha?
Yes,
High
sir.
pitch. Idalin mo yung dangal ng mga lalaki sa section mo.
Kaya na, sir.
Yan, go. May background music.
Sa ilalim ng puting ilaw,
Thumbs up.
sa dilaw na buwan.
Panalo. Thank you. Winner, Mr. Suwa. Panalo. Wala akong masabi. I'm speechless. Okay, next. Mr. Season, Jason, Carl, Mr. Season. Ano, Jason, are you... Mr. Season, talaga lang. Okay, sige, roll out. Okay, Miss Sardia, Princess, are you there? Ayun, nandiyan si Miss Sardia. Go.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Diyos ko, Lord.
Go, kaya mo yan.
Sa ilalim ng puting ilaw.
Ay, na, sir.
Okay, galing. Send mo na lang sa messenger, Mr. Season, mamaya, ha? Post mo yung recording ng ano. Okay, next, Miss Sararanya. Aliyah, kindly turn on your camera.
Hello, sir.
Hi. Nasaan na camera mo? Turn on.
Na-signal ko, sir, kaya on ko ang cam.
Okay, sige, go. Sing.
Bahan ko. Okay, go. Sa ilalim ng puting ilaw, sa
Wow.
dilaw na buwan. Yun yun.
Galing. Kanta naman na, okay. Miss Salahuddin, Fatima. Any turn on your camera, Miss Fatima. Hmm. Yes, medyo, na mahina lang onte.
Hello?
Yan, okay na.
Ayan, okay. Sa ilalim ng puting ilaw.
Ayaw bumanat. Okay, Miss Repuelo, yes? Hello.
Yes, sir. Madawag ka, sir.
Yes, marinig ka. So, turn on your camera.
Sir, dili na ako ma-open sa gay na pa ko. Hindi na ako magandang signal.
Sige, go.
Sa ilalim ng puting ilaw. Ayun o.
Miss Rakim?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead. Saan yung camera mo? Saan camera mo? On mo.
Wait lang po. Hindi siya ka-on, sir. Naka-ano? Error.
Ayan, on na. Go. Okay, well, go.
Cover your ears, everyone. Sa ilalim ng puting ilaw, sa dilaw na buwan.
Nice. Okay. Si Cathy, si Patwal, saan? Si Patwal, are you there? Wala. Bumanat. Sige, go. Sing. Bumanat.
Sa ilalim ng puting ilaw, sa dilaw na buwan.
Okay, Miss Pabingwit, Nicole. Miss Pabingwit. I know you're there. Magpakita ka, Miss Pabingwit. Mr. King, Michelle. Michelle. Go.
Sa ilalim ng puting ilaw.
Okay. So, ang hindi nag-ano si Miss Patwal, si Mr. Wagaysay, saka si Season. So, kindly send sa ano ha? Sa Messenger. So, and then class, you have until 11. Sige, extend ko na. You may submit it tomorrow, 12 noon deadline. Para maging fair din naman sa iba. Para fair din